Hello and welcome to Newsclick. Today we have with us Surya Shankar, an eminent activist and a filmmaker from Odisha. Surya and his film collective Video Republic have for the longest time been working and have been following the issues around land acquisition for industrialization in Odisha. And today we're going to talk about the recent Supreme Court judgment on the proposed Vedanta project in Niyamgiri. Welcome to Newsclick, Surya.
Thank you, Nakul.
Surya, could you tell us a little bit about the Supreme Court judgment on the proposed Vedanta plant in Niyamgiri, which came in April?
There's been a series of judgments by the Supreme Court, and I would like to briefly get into what has happened in the Supreme Court in the past. In 2008, the Supreme Court had basically given a go-ahead to Vedanta, and they had just said that if you get an environmental clearance from the Ministry of Environment and Forest, then in principle, you are allowed to do mining. And the question of ecology and environmental degradation, the drying up of rivers, this was all dismissed by the Supreme Court. But what happened is that the Dongriakonde went to the National Green Tribunal and objected against the mining proposal, as well as the expansion of the refinery, because the Vedanta had started expanding its illegal refinery by 6 times without any permission. So these cases were taken to the National Green Tribunal, and at the same time a lot of other irregularities were brought to the notice of the Ministry of Environment and Forest, which ultimately led to the cancellation of the clearance, the stage 1 clearance that had been given. It was waiting for a stage 2 clearance, but the stage 1 clearance was also cancelled. This was challenged by Vedanta and the government of Odisha, which is a partner in this project, through its subsidiary, the Odisha Mining Corporation, in the Supreme Court. After long deliberation, the Supreme Court finally conceded that as per the Forest Rights Act and as per PESA, a vulnerable tribal community like the Dongriakonde has the right to determine its religious rights over the Niyamgiri Hills, and the court basically asked the Odisha government to organize for Gram Sabhas, where the Dongriakonde would, not only the Dongriakonde, actually the Supreme Court had asked for Adivasi villages in Kolahandi district and Raigada district to basically vote for the thing whether they want mining or not. Now this verdict had some ambiguities as well, because there was a very strict definition of which Niyamgiri Hills is a long range of hills. It's about 30 kilometers long. It's a cluster of hills, and the Supreme Court verdict kind of specified one particular hill as the sacred hill of the Dongriakonde, which is not so, and but somehow it had made its way to the judgment thanks to Vedanta and the Odisha government's distortions of facts. And so basically the Supreme Court had asked the Gram Sabhas to clear the air about which hill exactly was their sacred hill, or whether the whole of Niyamgiri Hills was sacred to them. So all these questions that were there were to be answered by the Gram Sabha. What happened after that was, but surprisingly, the Supreme Court asked the government of Odisha, which was also an applicant, who is an interested party. You know, it has challenged the basically the petition, the cancellation of the environmental clearance. So, but even then, the Supreme Court asked the government of Odisha to kind of undertake this entire operation, and as we feared, the government of Odisha kind of tried to minimize the scope of this verdict to like about 12 villages, as opposed to more than 112 villages in the area which are Dongriakonde villages, and they all worship the Niyamgiri Hills, and they all kind of sustain their livelihoods on the hills. So they decided 12 villages, out of which there were some villages where only one village had only one family staying there. And these villages were kind of handpicked in a way that they would not really represent the, the resistance of the people.
But having said that, Surya, I mean, the fact remains that this has actually been a very sort of historic verdict. I mean, maybe not the Supreme Court verdict, but the polls that eventually followed in the Niyamgiri Hills We've seen, I believe that of the 12 villages that were handpicked, like you're saying, by the Odisha government, all 12 voted against the plant. And if I'm not wrong, 100%, not even a single person voted in favor of the plant. Like there was 100% anti-Vedanta voting. Could you tell us a little bit about the polling that happened and also the attitude of the state government at this time?
Yeah, the polling at the first Gram Sabha, it was clear that the state government was trying to again conduct the Gram Sabha in a way that basically what they tried to do was they had already got some surveys done which were about settling Forest Rights Act individual claims and some little patches of forest here and there as community claims. So first they tried to force that down upon the people in the first Gram Sabha. And the first Gram Sabha we witnessed quite of a tussle between the government officers and the judge who was there as a observer. The judge was trying to proactively push the people towards accepting what the government was forcing. Somehow, as you know, we have been working on video activism, and the presence of a lot of cameras ensured that the judge maintained minimum decorum, and that gave the opportunity the people to totally reject what the government was trying to push upon them. And we saw that one by one every village and every villager just rejected the whole mining proposal. Not only that, there were two villages where Vedanta has been carrying out CSR projects for the last 5 years, that is Fuldumeri and Ejurupa. These two villages also totally rejected the mining plan. And not only that, they also made allegations that Vedanta had forced them to accept CSR under threat. And the Gram Sabhas not only rejected mining unanimously, they also questioned the large number of paramilitary forces in the area that have been roaming around terrorizing the women and asking them not to oppose Vedanta. So the Gram Sabha became a process for the people to address a lot of other issues which were not being addressed otherwise.
What is, as the state government still somehow trying to push for the project on the ground, what has been the attitude post these polls?
See, the Gram Sabhas clearly have said no to mining. Now we are waiting for the final report. And there was a bit of a problem in the sense that the locals were speaking in Kui language, in the Adivasi language, and the Gram Sabha minutes were being recorded in Oriya. So there has been a lot that has been lost in translation. So the final report, we don't know how it will reflect. But since the entire process has been videographed by us, we can always challenge any sort of manipulation. But even if Niyamgiri is even if the government puts a moratorium on any sort of mining proposal in the Niyamgiri Hills, the biggest danger that remains is the illegal factory, the refinery in the foothills in Lanjigad. Now this refinery was built completely, without any proper permission, and the land was forcefully acquired. There was a unprecedented wave of repression upon the people, and the refinery continues to operate from there. And there is no question that is being raised upon the validity of a refinery that was essentially part of an integrated project based on the availability of bauxite in Niyamgiri Hills. So now this Niyamgiri project, the refinery is essentially should not be there. If it remains there, there are other dangers. Like there are a large number of other hills next to the Niyamgiri range, which are just like Niyamgiri. They are inhabited by Adivasi communities like the Dongriya Kond. They also worship, because in the eastern Ghats, in these areas, the Adivasi worship the Dongers because these are essentially perennial water sources. So it is very important. It's in Kolahandi, which is otherwise drought prone, and you have there's no water in Kolahandi, and hill ranges like Niyamgiri are the only sources of water. So the presence of the refinery itself is a big threat to the future of the hills and the Adivasis living in that entire region.
Surya, I believe that the attitude of the district judge who had been appointed by the Supreme Court to oversee the proceedings of this poll was in fact not only very patronizing but very condescending through and through in his statements about the Dongariya Kon tribe. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was essentially on the first day, which I said that when the Odisha government was trying to force its package upon that, and when the people rejected it, the judge behaved very strangely and made remarks like he called the Adivasi that they are, what he said in Oriya was, these are murkhas. Murkha is like murkh. And he said that these murkhas are so smart that they are, the fact that they were being able to assert and their rights did not go down well with him. And he said that if these people were to be empowered, then they would probably sell off the country. And not only that, there were a series of such remarks he was making on the first day, which kind of broadly reflected upon the inherent prejudices of, of our administrators and authority.
Surya, but I mean, at the end of the day, this has in many ways been a historic poll.
Yes.
And do you think this will set a sort of a precedence for other such movements on the ground against this kind of possible land acquisition? Where do you see this headed?
Absolutely. This is a historic step forward actually. Because for the first time an environmental referendum has been held. For the first time, the Gram Sabhas have been, given the right to decide whether mining has to happen or not, which is all in accordance with existing, rules and regulations. This is nothing new. This is for the first time it's being observed and being upheld. But apart from that, what it has also done across the country, wherever there are communities engaged in such struggles, they see it as a lease of hope, as a new lease of hope. In the POSCO struggle, we have already seen that the POSCO Pratirod Sangram Samiti has been issuing statements, writing letters that there should be a similar referendum held in the proposed POSCO site as well, because there is forest and their traditional forest dwellers live, and they also enjoy the same rights as per the Forest Rights Act. So we can see as news spreads about Niyamgiri, the Gram Sabhas in Niyamgiri, more and more struggle groups are realizing that this is a verdict that can be cited as a model for future resolution of such conflicts.
Well, on such a positive note and some sort of cheer in the midst of all this gloom, let's just hope that, like you were saying, that other mass movements and people's movements on the ground will be able to use this model to strengthen their own movements. So thank you so much for being on Newsclick, Surya.
Thank you.